Hey, I'm Regular Zach, and this is my limited set review for the Spider-Man, aka the Through the Omenpaths set. So if you didn't know already, the Spider-Man set that's coming out for Magic the Gathering will not be on digital clients. That means MTG Arena and MTGO. We will not have Spider-Man cards. We will have Through the Omenpaths cards. So we will have, all the cards are mechanically identical. It's just the art and the names that are different because of IP issues. So this one's digital and this one is cardboard. So keep that in mind. But I just want to show you all the pictures just because if you're going to your pre-release or something, you'll play with Spider-Man cards. But if you're drafting on Arena, you'll be looking at these cards just to try to get them, get your brain wrapped around all that stuff. Because it's kind of confusing. It's the first time we've ever had to do this. So anyway, we will see how this goes. Anyway, today we are talking about all the multicolored cards / the gold cards of the set. And remember, this is a limited set review. So I'm talking about all of the cards in the context of draft and sealed. So I'm not talking about cards in the context of like Commander or Standard or any constructed formats. We're just talking about limited. As well as this draft format, I believe, is just going to be this new thing where it's a pick 2 draft format. We might have the opportunity to do both, an 8-person pod and the 4-person pick 2 pod. We'll have to see exactly what's going to happen. But for the most part, I'm kind of guessing that we're going to play in a 4-person pod where you pick 2 cards, just because that's what the set was kind of built to do. And so I'm assuming that's how we will mostly engage with this limited product. Now, I'm going to put every single card on a ranking scale from A to F. So A's are bombs. These are the best cards in the set. You really hope to open these and you show them off to all your friends. B's are cards that actively pull you into their colors or their color pair, depending on what we're talking about here. For gold, obviously, we're mostly moving into color pairs. Then C's are, the bread and butter of your deck. You have a lot of these cards. They're almost all playable. C minuses are sometimes not super exciting, but a lot of your deck is built up around C's. D's are cards you actively hope are not in your deck. And then F's are under no circumstances should you put these cards in your deck. They are horrible. They are not even good for this format. All right, so we're going to start off with all the white-blue cards, and right off the bat, we are talking about Wonderweave Aerialist. Yes, so I'm going to mostly focus on the digital-only ones, because that's how most people are going to be playing Draft, and then if you want to look at the Spider-Man ones, you can look over here. All right, so Wonderweave Aerialist is a hybrid white-blue. So it's a 2/2 creature spider-human hero at common. It has Ward 2, and it says this creature has flying as long as it's modified. Now, remember, a modified creature is something that has a +1/+1 counter on it. It either is equipped with an equipment or is enchanted with an aura. The white-blue deck specifically cares about modified creatures, which is pretty cool because usually this is not a color pair that cares about that. Last time we saw modified creatures, specifically, we were talking about like Gruul, so green and red. So this is a fun new thing. This creature having Ward is actually really big because you want to be able to put like counters and equipment on something that is hard to target. So I think this card could be really helpful, and the fact that it could go in like a white-green deck or like a blue-black deck, I guess, is really helpful. Just the fact that it's easier to cast than being specifically having to have white and blue mana is a big deal. But with all that kind of wrapped up together, I think it's just like a C+. It does need a little bit more to go over the edge. I think it's going to be a helpful player, but not really an amazing card. Next up, we have a Margot on the case. This is 1 white-blue for a 1/1 legendary creature human detective hero at uncommon. It has double strike, and it says Margot can't be blocked. So an unblockable double striker in a archetype that cares about putting counters and equipment and auras on your creatures. That is sick. This card is going to lead to a bunch of busted stories where like start really early with this and you just can't block this thing and you're just digging for removal trying to kill Margot. This card's awesome. It is kind of small and it once again needs a bit more work. You have to put counters on this or you need this to be a little bit bigger. You need to put a saboteur effect on it. Something that like if you get an equipment that lets you draw cards when you hit your opponent, this draws 2 cards. That's really cool. So we do have some really cool cards that can go with this. So I think it can be deadly in combination with other things. I will give this a B- because if this is going around, I will think that white-blue is probably a little open just because well, I also love the word double strike. So every time I see a card that has double strike on it, I just want to play it. And this one is super sweet. So B- for Margot. Next up, we have Serena, Bargain Spinner, which is 3 hybrid white-blue, so 4 mana total, for a 3/2 legendary creature, Spider Human Hero at uncommon. It has, it says during your turn, Serena has flying, and it says when Serena enters, search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Now, this is basically the power of this card will be determined on what equipment and auras you can get. If you can't draw a card when you play this, this is like a D. Like a 4 mana 3/2 that has flying on your turn is not really good. And so I think you have to draw a card for this to be worth playing in your deck. And I would want to have at least 2 targets, hopefully 3, but 2 would be good, of things that I'm actually actively looking to play. So with that, like, if I get something great with this, it really depends on what our equipment looks like. We don't have the job select kind of things from Final Fantasy. And there's a couple equipment that auto-equip. Those will be probably the best ones. But just the classic equipment where you have to like play it and then equip it, not as exciting. But it does mean that you will probably get some modified creatures. So this will help you turn your creatures modified. But the fact that it draws us a card is really nice. I think I'm going to give this a C+. I originally had thought about giving it like a B-, but all in all, it really depends on what we're getting. But I really like it. Like, if you get something, if you're tutoring something to your hand, you just draw a card. That's awesome. That's going to be like so sweet. But you have to make sure you have something good. Next up, we have Kumanosu, the Watchful, which is 3 white-blue for a 4/4 legendary artifact creature, Spider Hero at uncommon. It has Vigilance. And it says, when Kumanosu enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, modified. And then whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Sick. And that just it doesn't say like 1 or more. It just says whenever a modified creature you control. So you get to draw tons of cards if you have lots of modified creatures. You get to attack with a bunch of different things, put the counter on whatever seems the best. But, you know, in the end, this is a 5 mana 5/5 Vigilance that draws a card when it hits your opponent. Like, that's pretty nice. But also, you know, hopefully you have a board set up already, or, you know, putting the counter on one of those other creatures we saw that either get flying for the turn or can't be blocked. That's really nice. I think this is going to go very nicely into these modified decks, and will probably be your top end where you're like, yeah, we'll top out at Kumanosu, and then we're just like, sick. Now we're drawing cards and we're just steamrolling our opponents and winning the game. This feels like a B. Like, it draws us cards, which is huge, and it does all the stuff you want itself. So yeah, B for Kumanosu. Really sweet uncommon. Next up, we have Kadi and, not Kadi, Makdi and Itla, Sky Snarers, which is 1 and a hybrid Azorius, white-blue. For a 2/2 legendary creature, Spider Human Hero at rare. It has flying. And says artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter tapped. So I think this is a nice card to have. 2 mana, easy to cast, 2 mana spell. That's a 2/2. That's just like a beater in the air. Super solid card. I think the having your opponent's creatures enter tapped will be helpful. I think this is like a B- level card. We're not... Like, it does warp the game to an extent, but it's pretty easy to deal with. But you'll be really happy to have one of these. But do you fully need to build around or do anything? It just seems generically good. 2 mana 2/2 flyer that slows your opponents down, makes it harder for them to block. If you have an aggressive type deck, it's kind of nice. So yeah, B-. I think the passive ability of artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter tapped will be more useful. So instead of being like a C+, that text is relevant. So B- for MacD. Next up, we have Angler's Shield, which is 2 white-blue for an artifact equipment at rare. It says when this equipment enters the battlefield, it attaches to target creature you control. Boom. Exactly what we want with equipments. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card for each modified creature you control, and the equip cost is 2. This is the card I'm talking about. When we have our double strike unblockable creature, this gives +2/+2, so you're dealing 6 damage a turn, and you get to draw at least 2 cards off of this. But if you have more modified creatures, they don't even have to hit your opponent. You just need the one with this to hit your opponent, and then you draw a ton of cards. This seems really scary. In the right deck, this seems awesome. This is like a B+, like house. It turns a lot of your creatures into scary beasts. And the equip cost being 2 is actually very nice in this situation. So I think the white-blue deck will have a lot of, like, we've seen a lot of flyers and unblockable type things. And this, just giving that Saboteur ability, that's going to be huge. Really like it. B+ for the shield. Next up, we have our next color combination, which is Dimir. It is blue and black. Our first card is Mob Lookout, which is 1 and a Dimir hybrid, so blue or black. It's a 0/3 creature human rogue villain at common. It says when this creature enters, target creature you control connives. I like that it says you control. It doesn't just say it connives, right? So you can put the counter on somebody else's creature, not somebody else's creature, but a different creature on your battlefield, as opposed to this 0/3. The blue-black deck does care about, counters and conniving because you're touching blue, so you care a little bit about the modified stuff, but you're also touching the Rakdos deck, which is Mayhem, so you want to be discarding cards, but also just looting through stuff and, having a bit of, just card selection is great. I think this is a nice little piece of cardboard right here. You can play it in both of those different decks. Like, this also would like to be played in your white-blue decks, because you can do that, or your Rakdos decks, because you can do that. So I think this is a nice role player, probably like a C+. I think this will randomly be more important to have than you think. Also, just 2-mana loot thing is just nice. So I like that flexibility a lot. C+ for the Mob Lookout. Next up, we have Carlo Suave Schemer, which is 1 blue-black for a 2/3 legendary creature, human rogue villain at uncommon. It has Menace. And says whenever another villain you control enters, Carlo connives. So this is the card that I was kind of talking about with the last card, was like, this one always has to connive, as opposed to being able to move things around. Obviously, this happens more often, and the blue-black deck does want to have a lot of villains. So you want to be able to go wide, playing a bunch of different villain cards, and also, like, conniving on this dude. It has Menace, which is nice, and it's got a 2/3 butt, so it's going to be really annoying to try to block it and stuff. So I think it's good. I think you'll have a good number of villains. I'm pretty sure there's less, like, if there's a card that says spiders and cares about specifically spiders, I think that's there's more spiders in the set than there are villains. So I get a little bit hesitant with this. I think it's closer to like a C or like a C+, as opposed to like a B level card where I'm like, oh, blue black's open because Carlo's here. I don't know about that. I think that it's kind of a nice little extra thing, but it doesn't have Death Touch, it doesn't draw me cards, it doesn't do anything when it enters. It's just like a little, like, you just need other villains. And I think that it'll be harder to find more villains and much easier to find spider stuff. So I'm kind of down on some villain things and much higher on spider things. So like a C for Carlo, C+, it's fine. Anyway, next up we have Terrell, Entropic Hunger, which is 2 blue-black for a 3/1 legendary creature, vampire scientist villain at uncommon. It says it has flying, vigilance, and lifelink. You can pay 2 and a black to exile this card from your graveyard. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. All right. So a 4-mana 3/1 that has flying, vigilance, and lifelink. It's going to trade off with something in the air. Hopefully something good with like 3 toughness, not like something stupid and just little. But then you get to draw a card when it's in your graveyard, and you can do it whenever you want, and you get selection. It's not just 2-mana exile, draw a card. It's like, look at the top 3 and pick the best one. So yeah, that's nice. It's going to hopefully give you some sort of 2-for-1. So like a B- for Tyrol. Yeah, it seems to be like a nice little bread and butter. It does what you want it to do. Next up, we have Rashai, Getaway Accomplice, which is 5 hybrid blue-black for a 4/6 legendary creature, human artificer villain at uncommon. It has flying. And it says whenever Rashai attacks, other villains you control gain flying until end of turn. That's a very powerful effect to just be like, all right, if my whole board is villains and I attack you, they all have flying now and you can't do anything about it. Yeah, that is good. This is a 6-mana 4/6 though. I think it's a little slow and clunky, and doesn't really do enough when it enters. And if you don't have a board, it doesn't do a lot. The 6 toughness is nice. It is a huge roadblock in the sky. but I don't know. Like, it's fine. Seems kind of like a C level card to me. Like, I'm not excited about this card. I think you'll play it sometimes and it will kill you sometimes, but I'm not looking for it in my blue-black decks. Does that make sense? Anyway, next up we have Skivix. Some of these Through the Omenpaths cards are so hard to read, but Skivix the Augmenter is 2 and a hybrid blue-black for a 2/4 legendary creature, Symbiote Spider Hero at rare. So it says, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. And then you can pay 2 and a hybrid blue-black, so the same mana cost, to exile this card from your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains this card's other abilities, activate only as a sorcery. So that last ability is just like the ability we had in Tarkir, where you could like exile stuff from your graveyard, put counters on things, and basically get another version of your card. But this one has like a super saboteur ability. So whenever you hit your opponent, you get to draw a card, but this lets you choose between, it's really just between 2 cards. But it is in blue, so there's a possibility that you will be modifying it. Because you can also play this in the white-blue deck, right? It just turns into a blue card in that situation. So I like this card a fair amount. It also, I think it really just fits better in that deck. It looks blue-black, but I think it's a white-blue card. Because then also you have the extra text of like, you just get to modify a creature and give it these abilities. So then you make a new modified creature that also has a saboteur ability. I don't know. This with the double striker is pretty cool too. Any of the flyer things, like that's pretty nice. So yeah, I think this is probably like a... probably like a B- or a B level card. I think the fact that you get to do it twice is probably at least a B. But it has the weird issue of like, it doesn't have evasion or something. So it can be kind of scary, but it doesn't give you any way to get into your, like, hit your opponent for free. Where we see a lot of saboteur stuff, if you can double spell, it's unblockable, or there's a bunch of different things you could do. So yeah, like a B level card. The flexibility of the mana cost is huge on this one, I think. Next up, we have Kavero Mind Bitten, which is 2 blue-black for a 4/4 legendary creature, Spider Human Hero at rare. It says you may have Kavero enter as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard, except his name is Kavero Mind Bitten, and he's a 4/4 Spider Human Hero in addition to his other types. And when you do, exile that card. Okay. This is kind of a weird card, but it's a clone for your graveyard, kind of. So at its base is a 4 mana 4/4. So you could play this as a 4 mana 4/4 if you have nothing better to do and there's nothing going on. That's horrible. You don't want to do that. Like, that's like a D. Then if you make it a copy of something in a graveyard, luckily it is a graveyard, right? So it can be your opponent's as well. You get all the abilities of a creature in that graveyard, but the power and toughness you don't get. So it's still going to be a 4/4 no matter what. And then you just hope there's some cool abilities in your opponent's graveyard that will be good for you to do stuff. It does enter as a copy of that creature, so you do get all ETBs and stuff like that. And, you could exile something good from your opponent's side, but you do want to be getting cards into your graveyard. You want to be milling, you want to be conniving and doing stuff to make sure that you can get the most value out of this. There's a bit of a setup cost with it, and I think it's a cool looking card, but it's probably like a C. It's like a C+. I think this rare might trick you into going right into blue-black if you open it, but I think it's fine. And I'll play it in my blue-black deck, but I'm not going to build a blue-black deck to play this card. Just because it needs stuff. It needs a very specific kind of thing in a graveyard. 4/4 is a big body, but if you don't have any relevant abilities in the graveyard, it's just kind of a 4/4. So, meh. Not obsessed. Next up, we have Niche, Pinnacle Pariah, which is 5 blue-black for a 4/8 legendary creature, human scientist villain at Mythic. It says other villains you control get +2/+2. It says your maximum hand size is 8. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you have fewer than 8 cards in your hand, draw cards equal to the difference. Holy crap. This is a 7 mana 4/8 that pumps hopefully your whole team. I know I said that I don't think there's that many villains, but if this card is in your deck, you're going to be putting whatever villains you can into your deck. And obviously the blue-black deck is the way to go. But that's even just kind of flavor text. That's not even that exciting. Like, pumping up your whole board, that's dope. Like, that's going to be so good. It's a double anthem. But the best part about this is that if your opponent is tapped out, you know, it does die to removal or whatever. But, like, on the turn you play this card, you have an end step. And when you get to that end step, you probably don't have any cards in your hand left because you played a land on turn 7 and you play this card. And then you just draw 8 cards. Like, this card could mill you out if you don't do it. Like, if you're not careful, you might just die to drawing too many cards. But I'm pretty sure that the 7 mana draw 8 cards, you know, you probably don't die because this is a 4/8. And then, like, even if your opponent can deal with it or do whatever, you're like, I have 8 cards to kill you with. This card is an A, like A+. Like, this is a reason I want to be blue-black. This is scary. This is okay, my opponent's down to 2 or whatever. I hope I win. And then they slam this thing. And then I'm like, well, now I'm kind of screwed. This is a sweet card. I like it a lot. Draws you a ton of cards, which is exactly what you want to do in Limited. All right. Next up, we have the Rakdos cards. First up is Knife Trick. It is a hybrid black-red, so a hybrid Rakdos. It's a sorcery at common. It says, as an additional cost to cast the spell, discard a card or pay 2 mana. And it says, Knife Trick deals 3 damage to target creature. All right, so this is a Mayhem enabler. Rakdos cares a lot about Mayhem, which is like the new Madness ability, where if you discard it from your hand, or sorry, if it has been discarded during this turn, you may cast it or play it for its Mayhem cost. And this helps you do that. So this is like, okay, you could spend 3 mana to deal 3 damage. That's not a really good rate, and it only deals damage to creatures. So it's like, okay, that's pretty bad. But 1 mana, discard a card. Kill one of your opponent's creatures, play a Mayhem creature. That's pretty good. Mayhem enabler for 1 mana. That seems great. That seems like, I don't know, it's like a C+ to a B- thing. It depends how good that deck is. But I like C+ for sure with this card. Like, I will want to be playing this card in my Rakdos decks, and maybe it goes up higher if we're really aggressive and we want to just be like killing and playing new things. Especially because this next card seems pretty interesting as well. We have Kivni Orb Weaver, which is black-red for a 2/1 legendary creature spider human hero at uncommon. It has Menace, and it says, when Kivni enters, you may discard a card. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on him, and he himself has Mayhem for just a hybrid Rakdos. So this, with the Knife Trick, for 2 mana, you get to kill something and then play a 2/1. That also enters, and you can discard a card to make it bigger if you want. I probably wouldn't want to discard a card if I don't get to Mayhem it out. So this is either like a 2 mana play, I get my 2/1 Menace, whatever. Or later in the game, it's like, okay, I will play this and then Mayhem whatever I discard. Or I get to get value from discarding this card to Mayhem it. I like that this card is like, it's kind of a payoff for the Mayhem thing because the actual Mayhem cost is so cheap. It also only costs 2 mana if you want to discard something for their Mayhem thing, so that helps a lot too. I don't know, there's a lot of cool things to like about this. And yeah, I think this is like a B-. Like, this card seems like it just kind of does... It's like the glue. It smooths out so much stuff in your deck just by having the ability to do so many different things that you're hoping to do, I'm assuming, with the Mayhem stuff. I like it. Kivni gets a B-. Next up, we have Crash, Reckless Endrider, which is 2 and a hybrid black-red for a 2/3 legendary creature, mutant villain at uncommon. It says, the beginning of your first main phase, you may discard a card. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, Crash deals 1 damage to that player. Okay. So you get to discard cards so that your opponent can't block with 1 creature. Is fairly aggressive if you're trying to do that. So that is nice. But if you can't Mayhem them out, I think it's kind of bad. And we've already seen 2 cards that let us discard cards already that are kind of nice, and this only is a discard outlet. It is a hybrid card, so it does give you a little bit more, you know, what is it? Like leeway with what deck you want to kind of put it in. Discarding lands to make it so your opponent can't block is kind of nice, and the extra little, like, if your opponent's creatures die, they lose the life is kind of cool, but all wrapped up together, I feel like this is like a C or like a C+. Like, probably just like a C. I'm not as excited to play this card. I like the ones where it fits multiple modes, and this is very much like, hey, I'm an A card that lets you discard cards, and then you need all the B cards that let you play the discarded cards, as opposed to I'm either or, I can do whatever, which I'm much more interested in. And it doesn't affect the board as much. Also, randomly, it's a 2-3 instead of a 3-2, because you're making sure your opponent can't block, so you probably want to deal as much damage as possible. So that's a little strange to me. So I just got to give it like a C. Crash is okay. Next up, we have New Ensumi Career Criminals, which is 3 black red for a 3/3 legendary creature goblin human villain at uncommon. It has flying and death touch, and it says whenever New Ensumi attacks, discard a card. You have to. Then draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn. Which is pretty nice, because then any of the abilities where it's just like, oh, play this, discard a card, and then you mayhem it, so you pseudo draw the card back. This just lets you draw all the cards back, which is really nice. Very explosive as far as this card goes. Like, I would be really interested in being able to draw, obviously, multiple cards with this. It does make you want to, like, discard a bunch of cards early. And it's kind of like Mayhem is this funny thing because you also don't have to play the card right when you discard it. So you could discard something in your upkeep or your main phase or even combat, like right here, and then you just decide which ones you're going to play at the end of your turn when you're going to like your second main phase. So it's kind of a funky thing like that. But being able to draw a bunch of cards, you like discard a ton of things, draw a bunch of stuff, and then in your second main phase decide, okay, what do I want to play? Do I want to play the cards I discarded? Do I want to play the cards I have in my hand now? What do I do? That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I think this is a nice card. This is like probably a C+ to like a B-. 5 mana is kind of expensive. So there is that, but it does have death touch, so at least you're trading with something. And you do just get to draw cards. You just get to draw cards. You don't ever get the little freebie, though, if you have an empty hand and you attack. And it's like discard a card, then draw a card. It's like discard a card, then draw cards equal to the ones you've discarded. So you have to put cards in the yard. I think that's probably why it's like a C+. And you do kind of want a big turn to happen to get the most value, obviously. So there's a lot more setup that goes along with it. So just a C+ for this. But I could see it getting a little bit better depending on how good this deck is. But depending. Next up, we have a pretty cool card as well. I like this. This is Ruzik, Booed but Victorious. It's 1 hybrid Rakdos, so 3 mana total. Goes in multiple decks if you want. And it's a 5/4 legendary creature, Goblin Villain at rare. And it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card, then create a treasure token. And then it has Mayhem for 2 hybrid Rakdos. So still 3 mana, but you don't have to have one of the colors. Cool. All right. So this card looks a lot closer to things like, what was that dinosaur from like M19 or something, where like it's a 7/6, but at your upkeep you have to discard a card every turn, or you sacrifice it or whatever. This has that same type of ability, except for you don't have to worry about sacrificing it. You just discard a card. It also says like discard a card, then create a treasure token. But if you have no cards in your hand, because it's your upkeep before you draw your card for turn, so you have nothing in your hand, you discard nothing, and then you just make a treasure token for free. It also gives you this weird thing of like, a lot of times when you're discarding cards, you're trying to decide whether you're going to discard a creature or a land, depending on what you might need. But this does kind of tell you to discard your lands and get treasure tokens, and just have like, you don't have very many lands on the battlefield, but you can cast things sometimes because of your treasure tokens. So there is probably a slippery slope there where you discard way too many lands and then you use your treasure tokens all at once, and then this dies and you don't make treasure tokens anymore. But this is the type of card that makes me really excited. It's a discard outlet at the beginning of your upkeep. It also has Mayhem, so you can discard it to other things to then Mayhem it out. These are the types of cards I'm really excited for. This card seems sweet. It's got a huge body. 5/4 is awesome. This is like a B. I think this is a really scary big card to be played early. And if my opponent's like discarding cards, I'm like, I really hope they don't have the Ruzik. That would be really annoying. So B for this card. I don't think it goes into an A because we don't get a lot of card advantage and stuff. But the fact that we can just discard a bunch of lands to make treasures, that's kind of nice. Next up, we have Desecrex. Some of these names is just so funny. So Desecrex, Gift of Servitude, is 2 black-red for a 4/3 legendary creature, symbiote villain at rare. It has trample, so a 4/3 with trample, and it says when it enters, return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains this creature attacks each combat if able, and when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it. And it also has mayhem for black-red. Okay. So we're reanimating smaller stuff to the battlefield. This is usually something we see in white, but obviously black also has reanimator stuff. But we're not trying to reanimate something huge. We just want something that hits well. I don't know how excited we are to see this in like draft. You do get something back, and it does, you know, having a top end of this card. I mean, literally, if we could play the last card, that'd be pretty sick. Like just a 5/4 beater that's like attacking them, and they're like, oh god, this thing's so huge. So they usually just take 5 to the face, I guess, and you have to sacrifice it. It only does it when it enters, so we don't get to get more as it like we keep attacking. But being able to like kind of mayhem this out is really nice. You get some extra creatures. You're hoping that you have some kind of big scary card. I mean, it's only 3 mana, but something that when you hit your opponent, they don't want you, they just want to block. That's what you're hoping for. You're hoping for something that can attack and wants to be blocked, so your opponent doesn't want to just be like, oh sure, whatever, I'll just take it, and you have to sacrifice it. But then also a 4/3 body at the end of the day, that's also pretty nice. Trades with a bunch of stuff, does still hit your opponent. So I think this card is pretty cool. It does draw you a card when it enters, but I do think you need to kind of build your deck around it. So, you know, it might, I don't think that that's hard though. Yeah, it's got a lot of stuff going on. I think it's still just a B though. I don't think we can go into the A range with this card. I think it has more things it can do in like constructed formats, because you get to pick very specifically what creature you want to bring back. And in draft, you don't really have the same luxury. It's just kind of like you get a bit of value. Maybe you draw a card, maybe you do something. So there's a bit of, you know, I mean, there's some value here, but not crazy. Next up, we have the Gruul card. So red and green. First up is Leyline Weaver. It is 1 red-green for a 2/2 creature spider avatar at common. It has reach, and it says add, you can tap it to add red or green. And whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, untap this creature. Buddy, what? So I really like this card, because most of the time, what you have with some of these, like, we've seen like Gruul, colored cards tap for mana before. Usually they're green and then they tap for any of the colors that we want. Or it happens to be like, oh, it's red and it taps for red this time or something. But the fact that in your deck, you can tap for either color is great. It has reach, so it blocks. It can also untap when you play big things. But the biggest thing is that if you have those hands where it's like, oh, I have a Leyline Weaver and 2 mountains, you could still play it. You're not screwed if you don't have any forests, which happens so often. You're constantly, you know, rolling the dice, hoping that you'll be able to play your mana accelerant creature. This one's just like, hey, if you're playing Gruul, you're good, and then I'll fix your colors for you and everything. So I think this is like a B-. This seems like a great card in those decks. You want to be playing big creatures, like the Gruul deck cares about mana value 4 or greater. And this card helps you get there and also untap, so maybe you can double spell randomly, especially with this next card. So B- for the Leyline Weaver, but our next card is Rhino's Rampage, which is a single mana is what I was trying to say. It is red or green, so you could play it if you could play a big creature, and then you could play this right afterwards. That's kind of nice. It's a sorcery at uncommon. It says target creature you control gets +1/+0 and until end of turn. It fights target creature and opponent controls, and when excess damage is dealt to the creature and opponent controls in this way, so you deal whatever. It has 3 toughness and you dealt 4 damage. Destroy up to one non-creature artifact with mana value 3 or less. Wow, that is a mouthful, and it took me a long time to get through that. But basically, you want to deal more damage than their toughness, and then you blow up one of their stupid artifacts. Would the extra part of that is like fine. The fact that it is a fight spell is like, okay, you know, fight spells are not as good as bite spells, of course. But the fact that it's 1 mana and it bumps your power is really important. Oftentimes we get the 1 mana ones where they just fight, and you're like, well, my creature is like the same size as that creature. Like I can't do it. And the worst thing is you're in situations where you're like, I'm desperate. All I want to do, I'll 2 for 1. I'll 2 for 1 just so they can get that creature off the battlefield. And then your fight spell doesn't help you do that. Because your 2/2 can't beat their 3/3 or whatever. So anyway, this card does help you do those things. And every once in a while, you'll be able to blow up some sort of random non-creature artifact. You would hope that it's probably some sort of equipment or something in the against the Azorius decks, perhaps. Maybe some web slinger things. I think obviously this card's fun because it says Rhino's Rampage because it's an actual Rhino, but then in Spider-Man it's like the guy named Rhino. And I think that in the comics oftentimes Rhino would crush Spider-Man's web shooter things. And so this makes sense. You can blow up the web shooters with this card. So that's kind of a fun little flavor thing. But yeah, ultimately like just a nice fight spell. This is probably just sitting at like a B- or C+. Probably the fight part gives it more of a C++ vibe, but the fact that it's 1 mana is really nice. So I love that, especially with the Leyline Spider, like I said at the beginning. Up next, we have Dreadfang Loathed by Fans, which is 1 red-green for a star 4 legendary creature, human warrior villain at uncommon. It has vigilance, and it says its power is equal to the greatest mana value among permanents you control. Cool, so it's a 3 mana 3/4 on its base. It has vigilance. Nice. I think that I would have rather had Trample than Vigilance with this card because, you know, it reads like you want to get like the biggest power possible, and Vigilance does not help you once you have a really big power. So it's like, hey, play cards with really high mana values, and then this gets chumped, or this trades with a 4/4, or whatever. So I don't like that part very much, but 4 toughness is nice with the Vigilance. At least you're attacking and, you know, stuff. But probably like a C+ for Dreadfang. Yeah. If this had Trample, I think I'd be a lot more interested. Next up, we have another card that I don't know how to pronounce this thing. Xekau? Exekau. I'm going to call this Predation's Shadow. This is just Shadow. So Shadow is 3 red, green for a 6/7 legendary creature human villain at uncommon. It has vigilance, trample, and haste. Okay. So, you know, this is 7 mana for a 6/7 vigilance, trample, haste. That's great. And whenever it attacks, if you've cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater this turn, draw a card. This has haste. It also has mana value 4 or greater. So, boom. This really just reads as 7 mana attack with a huge dude that has vigilance and trample, so you get to block on the way back and people can't really chump. And you draw a card? This is a B+, baby. This card's crazy. This card is so good. Like, this is exactly what you want to ramp into, because it's huge. It does all the things that you need it to do. 6/7 body's awesome. And drawing a card is going to be so annoying. Like, and then most of your deck probably wants to cast mana value 4 or greater anyway, so then you hopefully can do this on multiple turns. This card's sick. This is great. Yeah, I like this card a lot. A lot. B+. Very scary. Ugh, this is going to be a nightmare playing against your opponent. Next up, we have the rares. So this is Cheering Crowd, which is 1 and a Gruul hybrid, so green or red. It's a 2/2 creature human citizen at rare. It says, at the beginning of each player's first main phase, that player may put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. If they do, add mana that's colorless for each counter on it. All right. This is a really interesting card. This gives the vibes of like, there's some old like green enchantments that where like you could put a counter on creatures, like on your turn you could put a counter on your creature, but your opponents also got to do it, so your creatures kind of grew together at the same time. This is kind of similar, except for it's like my creature gets bigger and then I'll give you mana whenever you want it. And like your opponent gets to get it first. So you play this, and then they're like, sure, I'll put a +1/+1 counter on the creature. They get 3 extra mana. So their turn 2 or 3 is their turn 5 or 6. That's a lot. Oh, no, sorry. It's for each counter on it. My bad. That was like, I was saying that and I was like, wow, that is way more mana than I thought you were going to get. No, it's for each counter. So your opponent will get 1, then you'll get 2, and then they'll get 3, and then you'll get 4. That's how it'll go. But your deck, presumably, can use the mana better. I mean, this is one, so Cheering Crowd is one of the reasons why this card has red, green, so you just can't Cheering Crowd it out so easily. But obviously this is rare, so that's not that big of a difference. But it does make it so you can play multiple 4-mana spells on your turn, or just like ramp into big spells really easily. Your opponents don't have to get mana if they don't want to either. But a creature that just gets a counter every single turn and gives you mana, this card seems good. Like, I like it a lot. It's definitely like a must kill. Like, you can't just let this sit around. Like, it's just going to get bigger and better. What's this? Like, I feel like this is probably... I don't know. This feels like such a cool card. I'm just going to give this... I want to give this an A. I have this as a B. Like a B+. It does give your opponent some stuff. Okay, I'm going to keep it as a B+. Because if your opponent can utilize this better in their opening hand than you can, you're going to be really pissed. And it's going to be really bad for you. So, because of that, I think we have to, like, pull back and not be as excited. I got really excited there for a second. I was jumping right to the A's, but no, like a B+, because you give your opponent stuff. But I do think that your deck is primed to use it better than your opponent. But it will suck if your opponent slams like the freaking the dude that lets you draw 8 cards. Like that would be really bad. But Cheering Crowd, really cool card. All right, next up we have Boris, the Spider Rider, which is 1 red-green for a 4/3 legendary creature, Spider Human Hero at rare. It has Enweb. So Enweb is the Through the Omenpaths version of Web Slinging. So you can also cast this card by returning a tapped creature you control to its owner's hand, to your hand, and pay the Enweb cost. So this could cost 2 and returning a tapped creature to your hand, or just 3. It has Trample. It says, if Boris was cast using Enweb, he enters with X +1/+1 counters on him, where X is the mana value of the returned creature. Now remember, the creature has to be tapped. And so we do have a couple vigilant creatures we've already seen that are in this color pair that we won't be able to return with Enweb, which is kind of a bummer. That's a little frustrating, especially because the Predation Shadow guy, the Xak, whatever, however you say that card's name, that would be an awesome card to return with this, because then this has a million counters on it with Trample, and then you get to recast the Shadow, and you get to draw cards all over again and do that whole thing. So you can't do that, unfortunately. That's the bummer about this. But getting a bunch of extra counters for cheap is really cool. And this card does beat down hard. Like, this is scary. If you're doing the whole Enweb thing, which I really think you should, it makes this card way better. But also just a 3-mana 4/3 Trample, like, is already a scary beater by itself, and just kind of scales with the game if you can Enweb some stuff. So yeah, this card, it also seems kind of like a B+. B to a B+, but like you're smack in the face. Like, this card is strong. Yeah, I like Boris. Boris is scary. Just don't put too many vigilant creatures in your deck, because it's going to be a bad time. All right, next up we have the Celestia card. So these are green and white cards. Our first card is Gallant Citizen. It is 2 mana. You can spend green or white or green-white for a 1/1 creature human citizen at common, and says when this creature enters, draw a card. Okay, this card is going to be great. Creatures like this, we've had this effect many times. The one thing is that this is a little bit harder to cast, but there is a huge, like, entire archetype about, like, recasting cards, essentially. So Gallant Citizen is in the green-white deck. The green-white deck all cares about web-slinging stuff, or like the Enweb ability, where you're returning your tapped creatures to your hand. So if you can get this creature tapped for a reason, you get to recast it and redraw cards and do stuff. So keeping your opponent's like board clear, so you can attack with your stupid 1/1 and then return it to your hand, or do all the things that you want to do. This card is going to be really helpful for that deck. I guess you don't even have to keep your opponent's board clear, because you can do that while you're attacking. So this card is just really strong. It's going to be a lot of the bread and butter in that deck, and I think this is going to be sought after like pretty highly. Also, just in limited, being able to play a creature that just replaces itself immediately is always good. So the fact that this can do it over and over again is going to give so much card advantage to these decks. It's going to be crazy. This is a B. It's a common, but it's a B. Like, this is going to be one of the best commons, I think. And yeah, this is going to make the deck work. And if you don't have this card, your deck probably won't. That might be the situation that you're kind of in. Either it's working or it's not. So Gallant Citizen, very good. Next up is Janae, or Janai. Janae. Let's say Janae. And Hoppy, which is the spider, I'm assuming. They are roof skippers. They are green, white for a 2/2 legendary creature, spider, human, hero. So this is how they're getting around some of the whole, there's a million spider hero things, is that you have a hero and their pet spider together. We've already seen a couple, but this one feels the most obvious. And it says, during your turn, Janae and Hoppy has flying. Okay, so a 2-mana 2/2 that has flying on your turn. And it says, when they leave the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white human citizen creature token. So presumably this is on turn 2, you play this. On turn 3, you get to attack with your 2/2 in the air. And then you get to web it back to your hand, make a 1/1 dude, and then also play the next card, and then recast this later, and then keep making tokens when you're... This is the same type of thing as the last card we saw, except for you actually can hit them in the air. It's a little bit harder to cast, but you do make pieces of cardboard every time you return to your hand. You just like play more 1/1s instead of drawing cards. Another really good card. Like, this is like a B-. I think I like the Gallant Citizen more. It's easier to cast, and I think drawing cards is just maybe better than just making 1/1, but I'm not sure about that fully. But I guess this card also just hits their face, and you're like, well, I don't even have to return it. I just hit you for 2. That's pretty nice. But like a B-, just because you have to be green and white, where the other one can fit in a bunch of different decks. Great stuff, though. B-. Next up, we have Diligent Web Keepers, which is 4 and a Celestia for a 4/3 creature spider hero. This is a hero? It's just a spider. All right, it's it's an uncommon. And it says, when this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Cool. I like this because it is at least a creature itself, so even if you don't have that big of a board, you can just play it, and it does pump the other things, but at the very least, it at least is a board presence a little bit itself. But probably just like a C+. Like, this card does help when you're going pretty wide, but a lot of time you're already kind of winning. This could push you over the edge, so that is nice. And it's easier to cast, which is also great. But it really sucks when you don't have anything else going on, and it just feels so bad when you put one counter out. Just because the magical Christmas land of being able to put counters on all your creatures, and then you have like one creature or none. It's just such a brutal card to play at that point. A 5-mana 4/3 do nothing is bad, obviously. So it's like a C+. Next up, we have Alessos and Prass. Alessos and Prass. Acrobats. Another hero and his spider friend. It's 3 green white for a 4/4 legendary creature spider human hero at uncommon. It has Enwebbed for 1 green white. It says, whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains flying until end of turn. Ooh, baby. Just modifying all your stuff and Enwebbing for cheap. You obviously don't get the +1/+1 counter for itself entering, but afterwards, like, Enweb does count as casting your creature. So you do just get to put counters on things when you're unwebbing and stuff, and making them fly, so you get to smack your opponents in the air. Like, this seems pretty good. I'm going to give this like a B- as well. Yeah, seems like a pretty scary card, and can just throw counters out all over the place. Awkwardly not in the specific modified deck, but if you could splash this card, that'd be pretty cool too. I think I'd like this card a lot better if this was one of the... if this had the hybrid costs, it'd be much more exciting. But still a pretty sweet card. Yeah, nice. Next up, we have Demera, Soul of a Spider. Soul of a Spider, not the spider, just one of them. It's 1 in Celestia, and it's a 2/2 legendary creature, human performer at rare, and says, whenever a spider you control enters, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. This is the card in the deck that cares about playing tons of spiders because you're unwebbing all the time. And you're just going to draw a card freaking every turn. So every unweb is just like the Gallant Citizen dude. this is like an A minus. I think you're going to have so many spiders, even if you don't have, like, you're not doing too many in web things. You can spit on, like, you spit anywhere. There's a spider in this set, basically. So yeah, you're going to be drawing a ton of cards. This seems great. A minus. This is another, like, oh god, if you see this on 2, you're like, well, I guess I have to try to kill this. Like, if I don't kill this, I'm just going to lose the game. Which is great. That's exactly what you want your A's to be, like that. And I don't think it's going to be too hard to build your deck around spiders in the Spider-Man set. I think you'll be fine. Man, you're going to draw so many cards off of this dude. Or this chick. This puppeteer. Yeah, some sort of... they're a performer. Oh, right. They're a performer because Mary Jane's a performer. Gotcha. Anyway, they do spider puppet theater, I guess. Anyway, A minus. Sweet. Next up, we have a Lenny Brood Recruiter, which is 2 green-white for a 3/5 legendary creature spider human hero at rare. It has in web for 1 green-white. It says whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 green and white human citizen creature token. Whenever you're just casting creatures, you get tokens. That's very good. I just cast a creature, get another creature, and then there's another ability. You can pay 3 green-white. It says creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain vigilance until end of turn. So all those tokens became 3/3s. That's awesome. This is a sweet card. Yeah, I think this could also just be like an A minus. A minus or a B plus. I don't know. You don't get to really draw more cards, but you just want to play a bunch of creatures. I don't know. It does kind of look like an A minus to me. I'm going to bump it up. This green-white deck seems like it could really be strong. I like all the synergies and all the stuff going on with it, and the fact that it cares about spiders and cares about casting creatures. Those are already things you're going to be doing anyway. So, great card. And then it's going to be just a nightmare when your opponent has 10 mana and they're just pumping it into this. You also don't have to activate it as a sorcery. You can just attack. I mean, obviously you lose the vigilance if you do it that way, but whatever. That's great. What a cool card. A minus. All right, next up, we have some other cards. So if you didn't already notice, we only have allied color pairs that are really supported in this actual environment. So these are kind of interesting includes where there are a couple rare off-color cards that could help, you splash for it or do something like that. So these cards are obviously good to look at, but remember that you're not going to be playing a white-black deck necessarily. You're probably playing a deck that's splashing black or splashing white, just because there's no more support. Basically, if you do that, then you're not playing any other gold cards, and you're kind of playing in a different world, which is fine. It would be really cool if these cards end up being like secret archetypes. Like, oh, you're playing the white-black deck because you got Conius, the Horizon Splicer. Anyway, so this card is 3 white-black for a 4/4 legendary creature, human scientist villain at rare. It says when it enters, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent and up to 1 target non-land permanent card from a graveyard. And then when it dies, put him on the bottom of its owner's library, and if you do, return the exiled cards to their owner's hands. So probably what you're going to do is you're going to play this for 5. You're going to exile one of your opponent's best things that's on the battlefield that you're scared of, and then exile one of your best things in your graveyard that they killed earlier. And then this is kind of like a, hey, I'm a 4/4 body. If you want to block, you want to trade with me, you get your card back, but I also get my card back, so do you want that to happen? And then this card also just goes on the bottom, and then we might get it later, because there are some ways to shuffle your library in this format. So, I don't know, this seems pretty cool. It's probably like a B, splashing for this is nice because it is just removal. And then it's basically removal that draws you a card. And then I guess technically will give your opponent the card back. But I do like it as a splash because it does deal with something that you need. And it's also more expensive as far as the mana cost goes. So I prefer if I'm splashing a card like this, they are on the higher end of my curve as opposed to something I'm trying to play early. So yeah, this is probably like a B. It's like a removal spell that, it's an O-ring that draws you a card kind of, but then they get their card back. So it's pretty cool, like a B, maybe a B+. But maybe we'll just stick with B because it's not really in the supported color pairs. Next up, we have another white-black card. This is the only color pair that gets 2 cards that aren't part of the actual supported archetypes. So this is Withar, Cocoon Keeper. It's 5 white-black for a 5/5 legendary creature human villain at Mythic. It has Vigilance and Lifelink, so a 7 mana 5/5 Vigilant Lifelinker. It says when it enters, you may exchange life totals with target opponent. If you lost life this way, draw that many cards. So if you're at the end of the game and you're really low on life, your opponent's really high on life, obviously you want to slam this thing, switch life totals. Now you have the big life total and they don't. And then you're beating them down with this sweet 5/5. Or you have a little bit more life than your opponent, but you're kind of at this weird little stalemate. You can slam this and be like, draw 3 cards, draw 4 cards. I lose life, but then I have a 5/5 Vigilant Lifelinker. I'm just going to gain it all back. I think this card is really scary, and if you're splashing for something, this is like a A. Like, this does a lot of the stuff that you want to do. It seems really strong, and does a crazy effect that you rarely ever get. And the fact that they actually give you incentive to switch your life total when you have more life than your opponent is awesome. You almost want to have more life than your opponent when you play this card, right? Because I'd always rather draw cards, unless my opponent's at like 2 or something. But for the most part, I want to be drawing cards when I'm playing some of these like big 7-drops, right? So I'd probably rather play the blue-black guy that makes me draw cards. I don't have to worry about life stuff. But this card's also really cool. Yeah, I'm going to give this like an A. A- because of the mana value or the mana cost. But really cool card. Makes me want to play white-black or splash for this card. Next up, we have a blue-red card. It is Euharis, the Storm Spinner, which is blue and red, so 2 mana for a 2/3 legendary creature, spider-human hero at rare. It says you can't cast this card during your first, second, or third turns of the game. All right. So yeah, then the splash thing kind of works because you're not trying to play it on the first 3 turns, which is fine. It has Double Strike and Vigilance, and it says at the beginning of your end step, if you've played a land or cast a spell this turn from anywhere other than your hand, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So this Spider-Human guy gets to just dome people for 2. Basically what it's saying is that if you mayhemmed a card, I guess to be fair, there are some like red cards that let you play cards from exile. But it kind of also looks like you're in this like Rakdos Mayhem deck, and then you splash for this card so that whenever you mayhem out your cards, you're just pinging them for 2 every time. It's kind of a strange thing that has like Double Strike, but then I guess the blue part of it means you want to modify it so then its power is bigger, so then you get to shoot for more. It's a very interesting card. I think it does have power, but I'm not really excited about trying to get it to all work together. It's probably like a C+ to me. There is like power there, but ultimately I'm less excited about this card than some of the other ones. So like a C+, I'm not really pushing for this to be the card that I want. But in a Mayhem deck, if you splash for this, you are just zapping them for a bunch. So that's pretty good. Next up, we have Bracco, Heartless Hunter, which is 1 black-green for a 4/3 legendary creature, human warrior villain at rare. It has trample, and it says whenever a creature an opponent controls with the greatest power among creatures that player controls dies, you draw a card and put a counter on Bracco. So that's pretty sweet. It really just hunts the biggest thing. You're just like, all right, you have this big 5-power creature. All of my removal spell is destruction based anyway. I'm not really exiling your stuff. So I want to just kill the biggest thing that you have. I already want to do that. And then I get rewarded for killing the biggest thing? That's great. This gets bigger. It has trample. I get to draw cards. This also feels like an A. It is 3 mana, but you don't have to play this on 3. This would be really fun if you're like, oh, slam this and then kill your biggest thing. Do watch out for cards that do minus X, or whatever to creatures, because then they won't have the greatest power among creatures your opponents control anymore. So just keep that in mind whenever you're playing with this card. But ultimately, green-black just wants to have big creatures and kill your opponent's biggest creatures so that you have the biggest creatures. And this just says, cool, do that, and then value. So yeah, this looks like an A-. Once again, I guess maybe it could be more like a B+. Sorry, I'm kind of going back on it just because it doesn't kill anything itself, and you have to use other cards to do that. But I guess if you trade with something, you know, some of your creatures can trade off and then you get to draw cards. But anyway, it really makes it so your opponent does not want to lose their biggest creature, which obviously they never do. But I just love it's rewarding you for something you love doing. So nice. B+. Next up, we have Gloria, the Great Armorer. It is 1 red-white for a 3/3 legendary creature, Spider Human Hero at rare. It says, whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature, and whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Sweet. This goes into those kind of modified type decks. It enters... it attacks, or sorry, not even when it attacks, it's just whenever you attack, which is a great line of text, because then you just get to slam this, you attack with something, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature, and then when they hit your opponent, you get to either play whatever you get off the random card. It is a really strong card, but I think that I'm also on a, like, this is like a B level card, because I want this a little bit earlier. I guess it's just cheap and you could splash into it and it's totally fine. But like a B+. I like the Saboteur thing. I like that it gives you counters. It modifies your stuff. You want to play this in like a blue-white splash red deck. You know, that all that is really cool, really interesting. But I want to be hammering a little bit, and, you know, I won't be able to always play this card on the moments I want to play it. And I don't think... I'm going to say that with all these. I don't know if we want to play just like Boros because we got this card and just decide to throw all the other gold cards away. But we might find that that's possibly something we should do, but I'm kind of in the camp of we should just splash this. But B+. It can draw you cards, which is always good. All right, next up, we only have 2 more cards left. So we have Drunith, Reviver of the Hive, which is green-blue for a 1/1 legendary creature, human scientist villain at rare. It has trample. 1/1 trample, always fun. Love it. It's hilarious. And whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value equal to Drunith's power, copy that spell, except the copy isn't legendary, then put a +1/+1 counter on Drunith. So this is the type of thing where, like, they love doing this with green-blue stuff, where you, like, have this creature out, then you have to play a 1-drop, and then you have to play a 2-drop, and then you have to play a 3-drop, and then 4, and go in order. Like, that's something that they really like to do. In Limited, it's really hard for these to work out because you already have to draft all, you know, the right bit of removal and enough creatures and all blah, 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 blah. And this only cares about creatures specifically, and so now you're like, now I have to make sure I have enough creatures that are 1s and 2s and 3s. So... and the fact that you play this on 2 and then you have to go back to 1 and then 2. I mean, I guess on your turn 3, you could play a 1-drop and then also a 2-drop. And then you do get value. Like, you get token copies of whatever creatures you're playing. So you get to double up all those creatures. So there is, like, strength there. And it does get bigger and can attack. And obviously the trample becomes relevant at some point. But living the dream of, like, 2-drop into on turn 3, 1-drop, 2-drop. And then turn 4 is, I guess, just a 3-drop, and then you just wait. I like the dream. I just feels too much like it's just never going to happen, and you're just always going to be sad that you're like, man, I was really trying to get this thing to work, and it just doesn't work. And this card looks like that to me. This card looks like, wow, what a fun build around in another format that's not draft. That's basically what it looks like to me. So I'm giving this like a C. I don't really think we want to be trying this because you do have to put your whole deck into it. Like, you really have to try. You have to like screw up your curve to make sure this works because you need to have enough 1-drops. And it's just going to sit on the battlefield as a 2-mana 1/1 that doesn't copy anything until you finally, at the end of the game, get your 1-drop, and then you're just dead. I'm excited to be proven wrong, but this card looks kind of bad to me. You know what? I'm giving it like a C, like it should be anything. Honestly, I think you should this is like a D. I don't think you should play this card. I don't think it's unplayable, but I think it's like not great. So there's that. Yeah. Sorry. All right. Our final card is 5 colors. It's Scions of the Spider. It's a white, blue, black, red, green. It's a 5/5 legendary creature, Spider Human Hero at Mythic. It has flying. It has first strike, trample, lifelink, haste. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, other spiders you control gain flying, first strike, trample, lifelink, haste until end of turn. So That's lots of stuff. That's really strong. It will matter how easy it is to actually cast this card, but I like that this card actually helps you win the game when you play it. This is scary. It does come down. It can attack the turn that you play it. It can gain you life. Doesn't have vigilance, so you don't get to the whole like, oh, it's just this giant blocky thing. But honestly, giving all your spiders all these abilities and vigilance would be like so annoying to have to deal with as an opponent. But you're probably not going to be able to race them anyway because they're just gaining a ton of life, so who cares? Yeah, this is awesome. You obviously want to play as many spiders as you possibly can and tons of fixing, which is available. We do have fixing that's lands. We do have like fetch lands and stuff like that in this format. There's like 3-color lands you could also play. They're rare, but you know, there's a possibility to get them. So I think that this is worth trying to build the deck. Whether it's really consistent and strong or not, I don't know how fast this format's going to be. But I just like that this actually does help win the game. When the turn that you play it, if you have 2 spiders out, this is great, you know. I like that the 5-color card actually looks playable and it doesn't just care about being 5 colors. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'm going to give this, like, this is like an A- in the sense that, like, if you can cast it, it's really strong, and I don't think it's going to be hard to build a deck around it. But most of the time, you probably won't be able to cast it, and so it's probably like a D. So you're on either spectrum. It's either like you see this early, and you try to like play this, or you see it late and it's just worthless. The one thing is, I guess I haven't really mentioned this until the end here, but you are picking 2 cards with the draft. So you can always just pick this card and pick a land or pick something that fixes to help you, you know, go about the draft like that. So I do think it is a thing that will be done and can be done. And so I'm excited to see it happen. And I hope that it's me, and I hope that I get a trophy when I do it. Anyway, A- for Scions of the Spider. Mainly, it gets the minus just because of the whole trying to cast it thing. But anyway, folks, let me know what you think about all the different cards that we talked about today. All the gold ones. Which ones are your favorite? What's the best archetype? All of that stuff. Watch all the other videos. I have a set review for every different color, as well as colorless and the bonus sheet. So check those out and let me know what you think about the pick 2 draft format. Is it something that you're looking forward to, or something that you're really, really dreading? I think it's going to be kind of cool. I'm kind of excited for just like a fun change. This whole set feels so weird and different, and I'm on board for it. So yeah. Anyway, folks, thank you all very much, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye.